3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it. Good evening. Hope everyone is well. It's Monday night, so welcome along to another episode of Reading the Signs with me, John Ryan. And my beard's coming on. What do we think? You know, I'm going for that wild Irish Rover look, and with the dark jumper, I feel like I'm a spokesperson for like some terrorist organisation. Let's get this light sorted. How's your week been? How's your day been? What have you been up to? Do let us know what's happening in your world. Put your comments in a little comment box on Facebook or on Twitter or wherever you are. I'm going to wrestle with this lamp. This isn't good at all, is it? Not very professional. Let's get it up there. So it's still January. It's still cold and damp and frosty, just the way I like it. The weather, as we know, isn't always good for everyone. For me, it's a great day because it's cold and wet and muggy. For you, that may be horrible. And we all experience the same day, but it affects us differently. And that's the thing with well-being as well, isn't it? We all experience the same thing, but we all take different things from it. So I'm actually looking, I can see my reflection. I'm starting to look like Jim Royal. Before Nick starts or anyone else points it out, I will mention it first. Yeah, I've got this very Jim Royal look about me. I'm going to have a go like that. There you go. So, great week we've had so far this week in my house. We've gone getting ready for that last push on the building work, just sorting out the floors. No Darren today because it's his birthday. So a little happy birthday to Darren if he's out there listening. We've got an amazing guest for you guys tonight. It's a real treat, actually. It was always one of my favourite acts to work with, but our careers went in different directions. So it not happened that often since. But he's one of these people who may not see him for a week, a month, or a year. But whenever I do bump into him, it's just like I saw him yesterday. He's one of the most interesting characters in my life. And anyone who knows me will tell you that I've got a proper collection of characters, shall we say. But this guy, Griffiths, he tops a lot, really. His book that he's bringing out, I Was King of Spain, you can't put it down. It's just a dip in and dip out memoir of his life, and he's probably had loads more things happen to him since he's written it. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. We're also going to talk to him about his comedy career, how he was never a pop superstar, but if he had been, Bros wouldn't have got a look in. Before we go any further, a quick hello to Robert Van Buren. Thanks for coming along, Rob. Always good to have your support, mate. Thanks for your continued listening. If anyone else is out there, while you're listening to us on Facebook or on Twitter or on any of the other ways of doing it, all that social media malarkey, do let us know that you're out there. Give us a little follow. Do let us know what you've been up to and how you're engaging with the show and all the other shows that are on the station. So Griff is the sort of guy who you just get stuck with this guy at a party and you are in for a good time. You just know that he's going to entertain you and engage you. And I'm hoping that's what he's going to do for us for the next hour. So if I can ask you all to please give a nice, warm welcome to the man himself. It's an absolute pleasure, as I say. It's Griff. How's that, mate?
Hello, John. Well, that was a very nice intro. I suppose it's all down here from now, mate. It's all down here.
No, not at all. We look like we're kind of albino versions of each other. You've got like a well-lit room. I'm in this...
Yes. Yeah.
What's going on?
I would have gone for the darker look, but... I think you only go dark when you're not so pleased about the way your beard looks. And I'm fairly happy with mine today.
I've never really been able to grow beards, but last January I tried to do one and then it got too itchy, so I gave up. But I'm determined to...
I like the afro look. You had that afro look on the cruise recently. I like that.
That was our mate Lindsay has kept us really entertained during lockdown and since. just turned up last week with some Afro wigs, and so we thought,
I
come
love
on
a
then.
wig, mate. If we go away anywhere, me and the lads, I always take a bag of wigs. Always got a bag of wigs. I love them. I used to wear a bit of carpet on my head for about a year. I had a bit of carpet, and they used to sing to me at Palace, carpet, carpet, give us a wave. And I used to wear a bit of carpet on my head, for about a year and a half. Don't ask me why.
And so is Palace? Is that the team for you? Is that your
Yes,
boys?
I'm a Palace fan. Yes, we've all been commiserating each other because we got stuffed by Liverpool because they cheated. But I would be saying that it was. Do you follow football, John?
Yeah, I do. I'm for my sins. Irish Catholic family, Man United, Celtic. That's it. I had no choice. So I've had many great.
Because we're all Croydon. It's got to be your local team. It's Crystal Palace through and through, mate.
Well, I do go and watch Orient. That's my kind of that's my attempt at some sort of neutrality. But I was brought up.
Is that where you live? That way?
It's that way. Yeah, I was brought up halfway between Arsenal and Tottenham. So we used to go Arsenal one week, Spurs the next week. Sometimes popped out to Orient as well. But
what was that, around Hackney sort of way, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Hackney. Yeah, but my dad, his thing was, in this house we support Manchester United. If you're good at sport, you play for Ireland, and you listen to what your mother says. And then when my kids were born, he had the same speech, but he said, in this family, you support Manchester United, and if you're any good at sport, play for Ireland, and you always do what your grandmother says. So,
were you any good at sport?
Yeah, I was actually. It was pretty handy. I was telling someone about this last week that I was in a school cricket team, got picked to play for the borough. My dad wouldn't let me play because it was an Empire game.
It was a what?
It was an Empire game, and he was a very proud Irishman. And I'm like, but I've been chosen. It's like a real big thing. He went, no, not playing it. And yeah, it was very bizarre. You can't really sneak out a cricket bat.
No, well, we the school I went to, we didn't really play much cricket or stuff like that because it was a pretty rough school, and we only had sort of half a bat and one pad. You know, and it usually ended up in a fight with the other team anyway. So, but I did play basketball for the first 3 years. Our school was very good at basketball. My school was, and we won the Surrey Cup actually when I was 11 or 12. That was quite good.
Look at that. So tell us, how did you fit in with your siblings? Are the eldest, the youngest, the middle? Where did you fit in?
Well, I was in the middle of two. My older brother, unfortunately, we kind of retired at the same time. I retired when I was 38, and he retired when he was 40. And he had 10 years when all he did was drink himself to death. So that's what actually brings me back to the family home, because we moved back in here to try and help him. But his alcoholism was so destructive. I don't know if you've ever come across it. It's not just like someone being pissed. It was heartbreaking, and we couldn't help him. And it ended one way, and it was going one way. So that was my older.
Was it just the two of you?
No, I've got a younger brother who's I think he's 9 years below me. But it's almost like I was an experiment, John. I went to honestly, I'm getting them back. I am. I went to like a rough primary school in a council estate, and then to various comprehensive schools. And at this time, both my elder brother and my younger brother were sent through private education, from reception class, primary school, up to university. So in fact, their sports facilities were amazing compared to ours. But like I say, I'm sure I was an experiment.
So how did you fit in then as a kid? Was you the funny one or the lively one, or you all a bit?
Well, everyone was different. Everyone, my older brother was very talented. He used to sing, and my younger brother's brilliant at cricket. He's now some kind of chairman for the MCC, would you believe? But yeah, but each person has their different ways. Now, I only had one son, so what I did was, me and my ex-wife, we worked our asses off to put him through private schooling, because we didn't want him to have the same education that we both had. I wanted him to have their peers are different, their outlook's different. Their aspirations are different. So we sent him to private schooling, and he's done very well for himself, but he speaks like Boris Johnson.
What, just in riddles?
Hello, sir. He now lives in Munich, actually. He lives in Germany, which is lovely.
Pretty wide out. We got a little hello shout out from Peter Fermo.
Pete Fermo, yes, he's the bass player in my band. Hello, Pete.
Look at this boy here, Pete. Look how well he's doing, all the showbiz. This is next up Jonathan Ross for this lad.
I don't know about that, mate.
You also got an apology from James Sharp, I believe, about the Liverpool game. So we'll get there.
It's Clattenburg, mate. It's the cheap. But what do you do? What do you do?
Isn't it? So tell us, as a kid, were you always
Is it,
laughing and joking about? Were you always funny? Were you always full of mischief?
well, my mum and dad say I was, but I can't really remember that. Yeah, we moved from the other side of London to Surrey, and all of a sudden there were trees, and I was out on my bike and making camps and stuff. But I can't really remember myself ever being funny. I mean, the reason I got into comedy, for example, well, got divorced and I sold my business, and I was just knocking about doing nothing really. And my mate of mine said that you're just sitting around getting pissed every day. Come and work for me. And he said, I think you're quite funny, Griff. Go on a course. So I went on that Amuse Moose course. They can't teach you how to be funny, but you meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
And Logan Murray is just a star, mate. I mean, and I still class him as a friend to this day, even though I don't see him very often. You know, you meet loads of people doing that sort of stuff.
Just to get back though, so at school, was you trouble at school, or was you mischief? Was you getting told off? Was you?
Well, not really. I mean, there was always fights, but kids of our age have fights. No, not really. No, me and a tight group of friends that I met.
Okay.
Hello.
So you met a tight group of friends, and
Hello,
you all
John.
got on. You all stayed together. You just muted your phone,
Hello,
mate.
John.
Okay. Well, the gremlin that we always have seems to just hit us for a second. Griff just popped off, but he's actually quite a lively character. Pete, if you've got any great stories about him, James, do let us know. The thing with Griff is that he's just full of mischief. He's pressed the button on his phone. He's not really tech savvy, so hopefully we'll get him back in a little while. It's always interesting to me, though, to see how people were as kids and how they fitted into their family and how they were at school. So I'm, from a big Irish family, as I've mentioned a few times in the past. I was always lively, I think is the word. I was very shy as a kid, crippling shyness I had when I was very, very young. But then as I got older, I kind of overcame it. And I learned to watch. I was always watching people. And where I grew up, it was such a vibrant, sort of energetic place that there was loads and loads of characters around. So I used to kind of mimic, watch, and take notice of people. And then what happened then was I just became such a good mimic that I could make people laugh. I soon realised that there was power in laughter, and that by making people laugh, they was generally receptive. It was a kind of friendlier way of being, and it kind of oiled. It was a social lubricant, I guess that's what it was. At school, like most comics, I was disruptive. I think they called me maladjusted at one stage. I don't know what that was all about, but it didn't stick as a label. So I was very, very academic though, but the school I went to wasn't geared towards academia. So again, like most comedians, I found myself just making trouble, but being very, very bright, and that didn't really help me. But the school I went to didn't care anyway, because they were more interested in, it was a very trendy kind of what you now called a loony lefty one, where we didn't do history and geography, for example. We did humanities. So where other schools were doing stuff about the war, we didn't do any of that. We would do like the weather on D-Day and what the geography of the place was. So it's very progressive, I guess, but didn't really help when it came to doing GCSEs and A-levels, because it meant that we didn't quite understand the mechanism for learning. What about you guys that are listening? Anyone out there have a similar experience, a good experience, bad experience of school? Is it just comics and creatives that are kind of, I guess, cursed by this labeling and the same behaviors that we all have? Because whenever we meet up in green rooms or on car journeys, invariably the conversation comes around to what was you like as a kid? And very few of us had formal or conventional paths that we walked. But, it comes in handy because years later, we're able to go on stage in front of a room full of strangers and just be show-offs, basically, because that's all comedy is. Just about being confident and being a show-off. I'm hoping that he's back. Are you back, mate?
Sorry, John. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine. You just pressed the button and then you disappeared. I thought you'd been
No.
kidnapped.
What happened was someone said, you're on my phone. I said that I can't work my computer because I'm really am technically
so using the phone.
useless.
And I told you, someone rings, we're in trouble.
Yes, so someone rang and we was in trouble.
Was it
So
PPI?
it was my mate Sibbo, would you believe? Because he's trying to probably find out whether. Anyway, so where
Oh,
were
mate.
we?
Yeah, you missed it all, mate. I've filled them all in. They know all about you now. Don't need you. I've told them a
Oh,
story.
okay.
So you left
Because,
school. What did you do when you left school? What was your first job?
Well, I was playing drums. I think I had my first record out when I was at school, so I was already a musician. But I started working for my dad. He sold second-hand cars and tires. But then we had market stalls. I opened up some market stalls. I had a market store at Camden, Greenwich,
Wow.
Portobello Road. We used
Doing
to sell
what?
second-hand clothes. Second-hand clothes.
Okay.
So we buy like a suit for 10p from a jumble sale and sell it
Yeah.
for 40 quid. And for 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, it was just brilliant fun, mate. And then we used to sell sort of product of doubtful origin over at Greenwich and Camden
Products
Lock.
of doubtful origin.
Yes,
I love it.
yes. So, but whilst that was going, I was still drumming. You know, so the drumming has always been my passion. You know, I made loads of records. One thing led to another. Sort of eventually got signed to quite a big major record deal, and I was professional.
How did you get spotted to get the record deal?
Well, it's when you're in the music industry, it's like you sort of progress through different bands. There's like apprenticeships, and some people drop to the wayside from each band. So if you've got four players, 3 of them would disappear, and that one would carry on going. And I was that one from my particular band that carried on going. And after I think I had about 10 or 12 releases out, all of which had a certain degree of success. And then I was in a band called the Fun Crew, and we thought we were brilliant. We had a manager called Alan Bowen, who was quite a big star in the 60s. He was a friend of everybody. And we just decided we couldn't get arrested for a record deal, but we decided to put a record out ourselves. So we put the record out ourselves, which cost us skin us all. But we got A-listed Radio 1, and all of a sudden we had Arista, EMI, I think Warner Brothers, all trying to sign us. So it was a long process, John. It wasn't like an overnight success. You know, I think every band that you ever hear about, unless you've come off of one of those shows like Make Me a Star show. There's never an overnight success. You know, like everybody has worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. But yeah, so that's my drumming career. But I've made loads of records about being on TV, and
let's go back a minute before you get too carried away. So, what the band was the big one? Strength, or what was the?
Well, Strength. Yeah, I think we only got to number 38 in the British charts, but we were signed to a big American label. I wasn't really a famous drummer, but I was quite well respected. I've done a lot of sessions. I toured with Dollar, Odyssey, the Cool Notes, Edwin Starr.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've done my fair share, and I was sponsored by Tama, which is an American drum company. So if I was ever on the TV or an interview, I mentioned Tama, I get all this stuff sent to me for free. But one thing led to another. The band split up. And they formed a band called Dry as a Bone. And as soon as that happened, I sort of left. And then I started my furniture company. And I didn't play drums then for like 30 odd years, I don't think, 25 years.
Wow. So how did it work then? Was it just 2 of you in Strength, or how many was there?
Well, we had a whole band, but there was just myself and Billy. We had a whole band to start with, but it was like I think we were mismanaged, really, not by because my old man was part of the management team, but somebody else, and he sort of took us to this direction where it was like make you into these little pop starlets. You know, you see me with the long hair, and I was in Smash Hits and My Guy and Blue Jeans, and number 1 spread of Blue Jeans magazine of me showing muscles. They tried to put us down that route, and I was more of a rock drummer. I kind of went with that.
I've got to be honest, Griff. When I saw the when you sent me the music, that was a few years back now. It wasn't what I was expecting at all, and it was this kind of very kind of boy band, mischievous. I expected it. I thought you'd be like a heavy rocker.
We've done. I did some punk stuff, but I mean, it didn't really suit me, to really be honest with you, John. You know, I used to have girls. I had a flat around the corner, which I bought with the advance with the record company, and girls coming knocking on my door, like little girls, and with a fan club, and I had to go to these different signings. It wasn't really me. I mean, I went with it. You know, I had long blonde hair, and I did, even though I sang it myself, I thought I was quite good looking. But if I could take a pill now, John, to get that hair back, I wouldn't have it.
No.
Because I would just look like some kind of divine. It wouldn't work.
You look like Peter Stringfellow, mate. Gone to seed.
Oh God, yeah. Shaving my head was the best thing I ever did, mate. I love it.
Brilliant. And then, so the band doesn't play out. The pop stardom hasn't really worked. What did you do next?
Well, no, it worked, and I was professional, but I got to a certain level, and I think if I'd have carried on going, I probably wouldn't have been about, because I was certainly Mr. Excess in those days. I was a bit of a party animal, I must admit. But when I got out of the music industry, my granddad, his hobby was gilding and restoration on antique frames and stuff, like gesso plaster work. They're very traditional. And his hobby, he taught my dad that hobby, and I used to help my dad just restoring frames as a pastime. And one thing led to another. I thought, well, I'll do that. So I started making a few frames, put them in an old van that I had. Used to take her around different shops. And one thing led to another. 12 years later, I had, I think, 14 staff. It was 2 salesmen, one for the north of England, one for the south of England. I was winning awards for my designs. So I was doing very well, yeah. And then I signed it when I was 38.
So what happened then?
Well, I, for whatever reason, myself and my wife, we ran out of gas for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I had a bit of a breakdown. And I had a big showroom. Now, in this showroom, there's a lot in between, John, but in this showroom, I used to sell furniture. Some of the pictures on the walls I would paint, but it was furniture. And I had this almost a throne. And for some reason, mate, I don't know how it come about. I told somebody I was the King of Spain, right? And I said, don't bother buying that, mate. You can take it. So they just took this item off the wall. And it went round to my parade of shops within an hour. And rather than saying, look, you've got a problem here, Griff, you should close the shop door because you're giving things away. This isn't right. They were telling their friends to come in and take stuff off me. But I was sitting on this throne believing I was the King of Spain. And I gave loads of stuff away. And I know. I peed in the sun, John. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I ended up, I drove down to Bristol because I was so confused. And I was going to kill myself. I was going to jump off the suspension bridge. I know it sounds ridiculous even saying it now. And the tide was out. And I didn't want to go to the afterlife covered in shit. And it got really on my life. And my brother lived about 20 miles away. One thing led to another. I ended up going to the Priory for about 3 months because I had private health insurance. And there I was in the Priory thinking I was the King of Spain. My mum and dad coming in crying. And it was a bit bizarre, mate.
Okay, but you're comfortable telling us about this, yeah?
Yeah. Well,
so
absolutely.
When you went on that drive down there, what was your intention to just end it all?
To be honest with you, John, I don't think it was, mate. No, I mean, if I wanted to end it, I wouldn't have driven somewhere so close to my little brother, whom I love. But it was certainly a very confusing part of my life. So I'm in the Priory, and at that place. It was good for me at the time, but they were trying to. First of all, they tested me for drugs and alcohol. There was none there, which means there's a chemical imbalance. So I prescribed drugs, blah 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 blah. The people next door to me, she thought she was married to George Michael. Somebody else thought that he was, I don't know, the best friend of the Pope. Everyone had their own issues there. But when I came out of there, I decided to put that, which was just a bizarre thing, into a positive. Not because I'm some kind of genius, but because I just thought, where did that come from? I might as well use this to my advantage. And I became the comedian. And part of my act was I was the King of Spain.
Yeah. I get that. So in the build-up to giving the stuff away, when you look back now, can you see how it started going off the rails?
Yes, I can, yes. Because I was working. I never had any time off. I was working through the night. I had a nice BMW convertible, and I drove past the pub some nights on a Tuesday or a Thursday at 10 o'clock, and my mates would be in there. But I was just working. I'd have dinner parties when I never turned up because I was always working. And it just blew my mind. I think that put a wedge between me and my wife. It was just the strength to know the will to want to achieve, I think. But it just took me the wrong direction. And I certainly wasn't happy, but I just had to do it. It was just there. I had to do it.
But you had money, you got the car,
yes.
You got the trappings of a good life.
Yes.
But you still weren't happy.
No, I wasn't happy at all, mate. No, wasn't happy at all. But I don't know, because like when I sold the business, I had a few bob, and my little brother, who was a mortgage advisor, he said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, because I'm no big shakes to business." So he suggested to buy some properties over in the East End of London. So I think I bought about 8. He bought 2. I bought a villa in where was it? In Cyprus. But then we got the Olympic bid. So these 8 or 9 properties I had, they pretty much quadrupled in price overnight. So how it happened, it just happened. And he said, right, now you can build in the portfolio. I said, no, I'm going to I'm going to have 20 years off. So I sold a lot and I just had all that time to myself. Now, if I hadn't have done that, I don't think I would have survived. It's a bit crass now looking back because I think, I wish I had all that. But if I hadn't have chosen that route, I don't think I would have been here because that kept me alive. I think I had 27 or 28 holidays in 1 year, John.
Wow.
Flying lessons, handmade suits, learning to sail, brand.
Do you think
it kept me alive?
Were you still in trouble though mentally at that time? Do you think?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I still have issues now. No, if I keep myself busy, John, I have to be kept busy. That's probably why I've achieved so much or done so much in my life. Because if I stay still for too long, I analyse what I'm doing really. So I have to keep myself busy. Like just with my dog, I have to get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock to take her for a walk. Otherwise, I get grief off my dog. But I have. This is my own way of getting through it.
Yeah,
I have to keep busy. I have to keep active and keep busy.
So how did the comedy start? What made you? Someone just said you're funny. Do a course. You went on Logan's course.
Yes, yeah. I didn't need the money, and it was a good friend of mine called Andy Nichols. He's one of my oldest friends from school. He's still one of my best friends today. He said he didn't really need me. He didn't really have a role for me in his firm. I wasn't a builder. I think the first job I did, I remember he said, "Take some tiles off this wall," and he left. And I took all these tiles off the wall, and I came across the pipe for the sink, and I didn't know. I just pulled it to one side. And it was pouring. Anyway, but Nichols didn't need me, but he was paying me because he could see that I was in a very destructive place, sitting on my own, getting pissed, not doing anything. So he got me out and about. But he said, "Go on a comedy course, Griff." Like, I never even thought about it. So I joined the comedy course with Logan Murray, with about 12 like-minded people over at the Amuse Moose, and all of a sudden, sort of 2 years later, 3 years later, I'm headlining shows, which I've done 3. I've been headed for 3 years in a row. I think the first one I was up there with was the Amuse Moose, and then I was up there because I was in the Hackney Empire final, so it was the best of the Hackney Empire. And
what year was that? Do you remember that? Was that 2004?
Well, you were there because I remember I found that flyer, didn't I?
Yeah.
2002, 2003.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Lawrence was in the Amuse Moose final with me. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
And I'd done a show with Nigel Taylor, The King and I, but I was just hating it. I was missing my girlfriend at the time. I was missing my son. I was falling out of love of comedy. And it was 2 weeks into the show. Now, this is an honest story. I thought, well, I'm going to have a tattoo done. So I went to a tattoo shop in Edinburgh to have "Be Happy." And I said, "Be happy, please," right? And he put the wire the wrong way round. Now, if there was anything that was going to swing me whether to stay in Edinburgh or not, was the fact that a dyslexic Scottish tattoo, he put the fucking wire the wrong way round. So I just thought, well, that's it,
No,
so I said to Nigel, who's a lovely fellow, I said, "Look, Nigel, it's called The King and I, our show, but this is killing me. I've got to go home." So that was it. I left. And my last ever gig was a Laughing Horse gig. I was headlining over at somewhere in Richmond, and all I did, because I never bullied or abused the audience. I had my stories. You know my routine.
Yeah.
But I was just telling everybody how much I hated them, and funny enough, they loved it. And I could have gone on to do more shows down that route, just basically abusing the audience. But my love of comedy left, and you know what it's like. It's all-encompassing comedy, isn't it? It takes over. You have to be in there. Well, certainly for me, you have to think it. You're in it. You're trying to gig. You're out every night. It takes over your whole life, doesn't it?
It does for a lot of people. You got to keep yourself in check. So I did a cruise. I got back last Saturday, and this Saturday I'll go on another one. So the 2 weeks in between, I've done a 1 hour presentation last week, and I'll do a 1 hour presentation this week. And that's it. I won't take any more gigs. I won't take any more work because I've always tried to have that balance. I try and take off 1 weekend a month.
That's 20 years have gone by since, when you first started, John.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why I never really. I remember in 2000, I think it was 2001, the Evening Standard they got 10 acts doing 10 minutes each, and they said these are the up and coming acts on the London comedy circuit. And they did a review, and they said, the guys to watch: Russell Brand, Steve Merchant, John Ryan, and they interviewed the three of us, and they said, Russell, what are you going to do? He said he's going to do stadiums and blah blah blah. Steve said he's going to write sitcoms and that, and I said, I just want to be happy and have healthy kids. And the guy that did the article just laughed at me. Then he done a follow-up about 15 years later, and I said, he said the other two have achieved what they set out to do. Do you feel resentful? I said, no, I've set out what I've achieved to do. And Steve Merchant at that stage still wasn't in a relationship, and Russell was, all over the place. He had all kinds of problems. So it's about be careful what you wish for, be careful what you want. Isn't it?
I listened to your show last week with
James Dowswell.
James
Dowswell.
Yes. Yeah, James Dowswell, and he was saying the same thing. You have to kind of know where you are. But it depends. Yeah, it's very much watch out what you wish for, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, watch out for what you wish for. At this stage, I just want to give a little shout out to our sponsors, WJ Group, who are the UK's leading road marking specialists. They've been very, very supportive of the show and of mental well-being in the broad community in general. So thanks for that. Anyone just listening now, this is Griffiths in my head. Mate, I could spend days listening to you, and your book is just the way you kind of matter. That's why I say, like my mates, it's just that matter-of-fact way you'll tell a story that most people would be petrified of, but you'd go, okay. So, for example, when I was younger, one of my mates, he went on holiday to Bulgaria, and he realised that there's a lot of British tourists out there, and with the resort he stayed in, the nightclub was 3 miles away, and all the taxis would charge ridiculous money. People were getting attacked in it. So he saw this business opportunity for me and him and my cousin to get a double-decker bus out there and take tourists from the resort to the nightclub. Okay. So basically, he acquired a double-decker bus, which, believe it or not, you would have thought it had doubtful origin. You would have thought you'd get pulled over as soon as
How'd you nick a bus? How'd you nick a bus, mate?
No, but we got down as far as Canterbury before just the panic got too much. But it hadn't occurred to him what he was going to. He carried on in it, and he got caught further on. He kicked us out, told us that we were a pair of somethings, and even if you fly out there, I'm not splitting the money with you. And then he tried to get this double-decker bus onto a boat. That was his plan, but he got pulled over because he went on the motorway. But that's
you could have thought that through a bit better, mate, couldn't you?
He didn't. He was never one for thinking. But so when I read your stories and you hear your stories, I'm like, yeah, I can see that.
Well, because I wanted it to be true. So they're all true, first of all. I wanted it to be like you pick it up. I think one of the opening pages is something like, I want this book to be like a beautiful swimming pool in the sun. You can dive into it whenever you want. I remember when I spoke to you about it, you said, some of those stories you can make them longer if you like, Griff. I remember you gave me some suggestions. But I like the idea of one of them's one line and some of them aren't. Even when I pick it up myself, I think to myself, God, it sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm not. It's absolutely
no. And it's just that kind of matter-of-factness that you just drop into conversation. I remember a mate of mine, he went out one night and he got absolutely paralytic and was convinced that he'd spent the night with Robbie Williams, the singer from Take That.
Right.
And then, but, obviously we're all going, you're a liar. And then when we checked it out, it was true. It was actually true. But it's just like he took Robbie Williams was going through a tough time at the time, by all accounts. And they was going to go pictures, but he didn't really want to watch a film. So in the end, they went up a street in Islington. There used to be an arcade. Went in and played on the arcades, and then bought him a KFC. Put him on a bus. Said, "Nice to meet you." And that was the story. And you go, that's just wonderful in itself, isn't it?
Oh well, it's just. I had a fight with Rick Astley, right? I mean, don't. I know. Remember Black Box? Right on time.
Yeah.
I was coming down the stairs and they were going up, and she pulled my hair and went ding dong, and I turned around and it's Rick Astley standing there. So I thought, because my dad was with me as well as a few other people, so I thought I kind of not hit him, and he thinking that he would just go, "Oh, sorry, mate," and he fucking went for me. So we're having a tumble, rolled down the stairs, and it was split up by members of ASWAD, right? And you can't fucking write, you can't write that.
Brilliant.
Anyway,
Brilliant.
about 4 years ago, I was with my wife, and she said, "Rick Astley's on the radio. He had his own radio show." She said, "Phone him up and ask him if he remembers." Now, to me, that's a big story. But he might get picking up. He might have a fight every week. I've got no idea. But I couldn't handle the. I wouldn't. What's the word I'm looking for? I couldn't handle the rejection if he said, "No, mate, I don't know what you're talking about." You know, because to me, it's a really important part of my little world. But to him, it's just another ball fell out in a fight. But yeah, he can have it. Rick was going to have it.
Rick, he can have it. I tell you what.
Yes, he was never going to give you up. I know you're going to say it.
Go on, mate. Go on.
Yeah, go on. Yeah, I'd have fought Rick Astley. But all of these things are in the book that I met. Yeah, just loads of stuff.
What's your favourite? What's your favourite story from the book?
It doesn't involve any celebrities. But a mate of mine's really into metal detecting.
Right.
And he goes all over the country, up and down. So he said, "Come on, we'll go metal detector." Me and my mate Eric and another mate of ours, Paul the Carpet, we went metal detectors. He picks me up from here, and we go to some field in Norwich at like 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock. We get this field, and you have to pay to go on. There's a tent from like a history, full of historians. So if you find anything of historical interest, you give it to the tent people, and then they look at it and say, "Oh, because it may be a field of historical interest. It may be something very interesting." Anyway, and 4 hours later, I'd found nothing. I Capri Sun packet in a biro. And he says, Griff, come here. I said, "What you got?" And he showed me this round thing, right? Like a brass. And I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's the boss of a Saxon shield. You know, the middle bit of a Saxon shield. That would have been worth a fortune. It would have probably changed his life." And he said, "He's not going to give it in." And I said, "It looks a bit too engineered there." He said, No. But he didn't give it in. It turned out, he went home, cleaned it all up, weighed it, took pictures of it. It turned out to be the petrol cap of a tractor. Anyway, it makes me laugh. It didn't make you laugh. It made me laugh.
No, that's brilliant. That's a lovely
story. That's one of my favourite stories.
So, John Newton, I'm sure you remember John Newton.
Of course I do, yes.
Yeah, he's just asking where the Dalek is.
The Dalek's upstairs in my bedroom, John. We done a gig. We done a gig somewhere or other, and I think he dropped me home, and because it was so late. I think it was me, Henning, John, and Nick Coppin. Yeah. He dropped me home here, and I bought him a little tiny Dalek. Do you remember that, John? If he's still listening, some of those people from the people from those days, Mr. Ryan, are just. I mean, sometimes I don't speak to them from one year to the next, but they're just still very good friends of mine. I spoke to Gareth Berliner the other day because I wanted to tell him that I was on your show, and I hadn't spoken to him for 6 years. And unfortunately, he was in hospital because he's been poorly with all his issues he's got. But it's like I spoke to him only yesterday. It's brilliant people, David Ward, all those boys.
So my favourite story.
Joe Wilkinson, I still speak to him a lot. Henning, I spoke to him yesterday.
I love the story. It's the silly things like the dog getting chased by the ice cream.
Oh, mate, that was a real story. And so shall I tell it quickly?
Go on, tell us how it happened. Go on.
Right. So I'm sitting at the traffic lights in Wallerton. I think I was the first car on the lights, and suddenly this dog runs across in front of me, attached to a Wall's ice cream sign. And he's just run across. Cars are stopping. He's run into the wall and knocked himself out. So I've jumped out because it's a dog. And the fellas come running across. I said, "Well, what's happening, mate?" He said, "Oh, I went to get myself something in the shop, and I tied him to the sign, and he thinks he's being chased by it." I said, "Oh, no harm done. That's the end of the story." 2 days later, I'm having an operation on my knee, and I'm sitting literally about to be put under the anaesthetic, and the fella comes and says, "No." It was the fella whose dog it was the anaesthetist. He said, "Oh, my dog was used to save my dog," and I said, "Oh yeah." Anyway, it's not a funny story, but that's the story.
It's very funny. So all these kind of little manic little episodes, all these little great little tales and stories you have, right? Do you not see though that part of your creativity comes from this chaos?
Yes. So when you said, I think the advert or what to get people interested for tonight, it was like it said an honest insight into a creative mind. I thought, bloody hell, no pressure then. But yes, certainly. It's like I paint pictures. But sometimes, John, I won't paint for 3 months. And then I'll get up one night, bang, and I'll paint 6 in 4 hours. And then there's nothing. it's almost like there's something else in me, and it's not a godlike thing, but it's like I have to create, and I will paint 8 or 9 pictures, and then I just won't even pick up a brush again for another year. And sometimes I will look at this stuff that I've painted, and I wonder how I've done it, because it's not even me that's done it.
See,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, a mate of mine, little name drop, Lucy Freud, right? She's an artist, fantastic. I was talking to her about this because I can't draw. When I was at school, when it was art class, we had an arrangement, me and the teacher, whereby I could just write stories and I wouldn't have to draw, and then we were happy. I was talking about it to my daughter today. My daughter's a fantastic artist, and me and my son, he can draw cereal boxes, he says. So, but she's got the family gene for painting. Anyway, talking to Lucy, who is a professional artist, she was saying that she has these easels set up, and she can walk past them for weeks at a time and just not look at them. But then the day it catches her, she'll stay there 20 hours.
Yes, it's exactly the same with me. Exactly the same. I end up taking over the whole house. I'm like almost painting 2 at the same time, and then it would be nothing. I could paint like 7 or 8, and there'd be nothing.
But see, that mania, that frenzy, that's got to be tiring.
It is. It is. Well, yeah. I suppose so. Yeah. I don't really know.
But then you've got to have an
nervous
outlet for
energy
it.
most of the time. Nervous energy, I suppose.
But you're a big lad. You can handle yourself. And I always remember meeting you and realizing that there was no, it's a bit of a cliche, but the world is your stage. It's not like you go on, switch it on, come off, switch it off again. You're as entertaining in the car as you are on stage.
Well, funny enough, people do say that. I mean, when I go out, we do have a laugh. But I've got most of my friends are very entertaining. It's like when you go out with lots of comedians, strangely enough, they're nice people and they're great company, but they're not entertaining. No, do you know what I mean? If a civilian, as you call them, John, joined a group of comedians, like if there's Henning, Joe Wilkinson, me, Greg Davis, you, they'd be expecting it to be, hey, way, and it isn't, is it?
Yeah,
it isn't, is it? We just.
People are often amazed at how dull I am, and because I'm quite happy, and honestly, you'll get conversations. Me and Tashby actually, and a mate or whatever, a friend of hers will say, "And you're a comedian." And I'll say, "Well, it's one of the things I do, but it's not what I am."
Well, but I think your beauty is, John. You are you. You come across very natural, like you said off air. You said you're nosy. You are genuinely want to know what's going on behind me. You are genuinely nosy, but it comes across without being nosy. It comes across as if you're interested in the character. You're interested. I mean, I think the first time I met you, it was So You Think You're Funny competition down in Reading or somewhere or other.
Wasn't I hosting it? Yes, I was hosting it. Imran just have won it.
Yes, brilliant comedian.
You should have won it. You should have won it.
Yes, I know that, mate. I know that.
I remember telling you that at the end. I remember saying to you, you're not going to win it, mate, but you should.
Well, the strange thing is, people would say that when I did the Amuse Moose. I remember Rod Gilbert, who was a friend of mine, but he came up to me because he was at the Amuse Moose final, and everybody said, "You won that." But I think it's politics because I'm 59 this year, so I was at least 12, 15 years older than most of the people that are on the stage. There's politics involved. Hills Jago, whatever. I mean, I like her. She's a bit crazy, but she came backstage with 2 pints of lager, and there was me and a few others. A fellow called Stuart Hudson, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he was backstage because he was part of the final. And she gave a pint of lager to Andrew Lawrence and a pint of lager to the person who came second. We all went, oh. She said, no, it's just them two. So we knew that they were going to come first and second. But it is what it is. I was too old. Maybe I swore too much. I remember she said to me, "You're getting well known on the circuit for busting a microphone stand." So I used to bang them on the floor. So I just went and bought my own. It cost me 140 quid. So I used to take it to the kid. And she said, "Look, can we borrow your one? It's better than our one." It's just,
But this is my thing, right? So going back, my mania is very controlled. So I can remember the corridor that I spoke to you in Newbury at that New Act final. And I remember the fact that Imran won it. And I remember talking to you and you were all hyped up. And I said, mate, well done. You're not going to win. You're the best act. You should have won it. And even Imran, who won it, said he should have won it. Right? I can remember the smell of the corridor. And it's not because in any way, that was a standout night in my life. But it's just that I associate the image, the conversation, the clothes as well. So if ever I'm having a disagreement with someone, I will say, look at me, look at what I'm wearing, look around the room, take a smell and listen, and never forget this moment. And when I was younger, then I did.
Well,
But now I just kind of now I
that's
just
very
walk
sensible.
away.
Well, I don't know if you remember my act, but I was quite full on.
Oh
I
yeah,
was,
yeah.
it was. I put a lot into it. I mean, up in Edinburgh, I think the first time I was up there, you're doing like 6 shows a day, aren't you? You do a
Yeah.
gig here, a gig there, a gig here. It's hard graft, John, isn't it? And like so there'll be another actor on who's I don't know, like Henning is so low key compared to mine.
Yeah.
But the two completely different acts. But
Yeah,
yes, I was
yeah.
always, but that's how I am a bit anyway.
But that's how you are in life, isn't it? That's how you are.
Yes,
So
I
how
think
did you
so,
cope
yeah.
with lockdown then, when we couldn't get out and we couldn't, we couldn't do much?
Well, yeah, I think lockdown was fun because I got my dog. I was taking my dog out, and obviously I was looking after my mum and dad, because they've looked after me my whole life. I was looking after them too. Funny enough, John, it came to the end of lockdown, and I went out and I bought them a cup. So to mum and dad, awarded it to them, and I said that this is from me. Thank you for putting up with me, blah blah blah, for the last 18 months. And they'd been out to a different cup place and bought a medal for me, saying thank you for putting up with them too. How lovely is that? So we had an award ceremony here on the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but lockdown was difficult, but about 4 weeks ago, I had COVID. It wasn't too bad for me, actually. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind every other weekend because I sat in my TV room. I phone up my mum and say, "Oh, can you leave us some donuts outside?" And then she'd knock on the door, there'd be donuts and cups of tea. And
Can you leave me some donuts?
yeah, I know. I'm 58, mate. What's going on?
But how
But
did you cope then with the isolation and not being able then with COVID? What you must have been getting out your head.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard. Yeah. It was a couple of personal items that happened, but in my personal life, which are going to be resolved now, and that was as a direct result of lockdown. And I think a lot of people were struggling with that, weren't they? Because it was hard work for everybody, wasn't it? It was hard work. I mean, some people loved it, some people didn't.
Yeah.
Some people were still working from home. Like I think I mentioned you off air. A very good friend of mine called Kim Ross. Maybe he's listening tonight, but he suffers a bit. And he just recently he's had like a month and a half in bed. Things really get to him because he runs his own business very successfully, but you can't switch off. And then.
So when you look at it and you think about when you was at your lowest point, what did you need? What could people have done that could have maybe helped you? Would you have listened
when I
if
was
someone
really bad?
Yeah. What would have helped you?
Nothing. Nothing really. I mean, I knew that I've got some very, very, very lifelong loyal friends, some of which I've known for since I was 8 or 9. In fact, most of which there's a big group of maybe 50, 60 of us. We're all very, very tight. There's nothing. You can't really put your hand on someone and say, "Oh, don't worry, mate. Cheer up. Tomorrow's another day." It doesn't work that way. Well, it's certainly not for me, and for the people that I know that suffer with some kind of depression or bipolar, it doesn't work that way for them either. We all suffer like everybody does with if you're upset about you've had a row with your missus, or you feel that you're having a bad hair day, or there's bits on the TV that you're not agreeing with. We all suffer those kind of upset, but when you're really down, it's in a trough you cannot get out of, mate. I would be very happy. I haven't done it for 5 years. I would sit in my room for 3 weeks, mate. I wouldn't talk to anybody, and even if a friend came round, which they often did, I wouldn't want them in the house. When I was in the Priory, I had so many people come down to see me. I didn't want to see them. There's nothing they could do. But I knew they were there, and I would be there for them. But there's nothing they can do.
But did that help, knowing that they were there, or was it just something you went through on your own?
It's something this is from my own personal point of view, John. It's something that I went through on my own. I knew that they were there, but I had to do it. One thing I didn't want to do was come out of the Priory with loads and loads of drugs. So I managed to keep myself fit. I mean, I had to in the end because I had a chemical imbalance. But I didn't want to, sort of take one of these to get through it, take this, because I think that you're coming out there with another issue. I went in there with an issue of not taking drugs, so why come out with one? That's the way I saw it.
No,
but I know now,
it's
taken me many, many years, John. I'm 59 in May. I just have to keep busy. I have to keep busy. I mean, the start of this year, I've got this documentary and the book and some other bits and pieces. I'm busy. That's keeping me. I'm moving in the right direction. But if I didn't have that, I wouldn't go and get a job. I wouldn't be that. Nothing's that bad.
If you had to
But yeah, I
give
have to
someone a
keep
tip, though, you have to give someone a bit of advice, right? And say to them, look, this is what might help you with your head, with your well-being. Can you think of one thing maybe that you'd suggest or recommend?
Well, this isn't scientific, but
Right?
get
It's
a
okay.
dog, go out walking.
Get a dog.
Well, I know some people don't like dogs, but
How can you not like dogs?
some people don't, do they? Some people don't. I
Well,
mean, my Georgie, she's like the sweetest thing, and I have to take her out every day. She loves going out, and I love going out every day. And it gives you something to get up for. But that's not really very good advice, is it? By a
that's
dog.
great advice because it's practical and it's real, and it makes a difference. And if it,
Well, I
like
think
you say,
James
your
Southwell
day,
was saying the same thing, wasn't he?
yeah, your dog wakes you up in the morning and gives you a reason to get out of bed, and you've got a structure, you've got responsibility, so that
Yeah,
helps. And you, mate, have been at the rock bottom, okay, and
I have.
you have, right. And so when people go, oh, look, mental well-being, mental health affects people differently, I understand that, but you have kind of accepted and embraced what you've gone through, and you've also seemed to have, you're aware that it's an ongoing battle. Like when we spoke earlier, off air, it's like you're not going, I'm going to get cured, I'm going to get helped. You realize this is me, this is what I've got to work with, and I'm going to do the best I can with it.
It's taken a long time to get this far, though, John. It's a long time to get that into my head, and lots of conversations when you're not depressed with people as well. When I've been low, which is very rare nowadays, you can't have a conversation with someone about it. You might as well talk to that box, mate. It ain't
Yeah,
going to happen. But
yeah,
when you're out of it, you can see better. Then you can discuss it. But like I say, like when my mate Kinross, when he was low, I would phone him. His wife would answer the phone. I say, I'll bring anything round. He knows that, but he don't want to see me. The last thing he wants is me there. But when he comes out the other side, the first people he phones up are the people
yeah,
he knows that were there. But
yeah.
at that point, he don't want me. He don't want none of us. But he knows that we're all there and care for him. That's the
So
deal.
you said that working to excess, you think may have been one of the things that helped tip you over the edge. How are you going to
Yes.
not do that now with the book, with the documentary, with all the other stuff?
Well, first of all, I'm not so hungry for that anymore. I think I'm a different person now. My son's now, he's living in Munich. There's no finances to go there. I haven't got houses to keep paying for. I've just got myself really, and I think I've got a finer balance now. Whereas back then it was all about material stuff. It was all about nice cars, nice holidays. Want to go skiing 3 times a year, but that's not what life's about. Even when I went skiing, I just wanted to sleep or come back to work. You know, I don't know. I think I've got a finer balance now because I'm getting old, John. That's what it is, mate.
You're not getting old, mate. You're going to
How
grow
old
up
are you? How old are you, Mr.
disgracefully.
Ryan?
I'm just shy of 52.
Oh, okay. I thought you were younger than that.
Yeah, well, you know what it is. It's this youthful disposition.
It's the
I
beard.
can pass for my 40s, or if my cousin Sharon's watching, I'm 77. So
Is that what she reckons you are?
actually, we have this running joke that I'm older than her, but she seems to be aging quicker, and it's just
Now, do you
it's
not
my
think
thing, though,
that
mate. Go.
it is going that fast? My dad is 86 now. He's one of my best. He's my best mate. He comes to so many of those comedy gigs. I mean, I'm sure that everybody, if there's any comedians who've tuned in tonight, they all know my dad. He always used to say, and still does, time's too short, it goes too fast, kid. But now, John, Friday, and then bloody hell, it's Friday again, and then bloody hell, it's Friday again. It's these weeks, regardless of how much you put into that and how busy you are and how much you've achieved, those weeks just fly by, mate, don't they?
Just fly, they do. So when's the book out? When you bring the book out?
Well, it's coming out hopefully the end of February. I mean, because it's with a publishing company. I didn't do it myself. It's with a publishing company. They just it's all they're getting things right, spreading. It's coming out the end of February.
Yeah. You're doing it all properly.
Yes.
So
and
what you do is when it comes out, send me the link, mate, and I'll obviously tat it around for you. You'll probably have enough for the follow-up book by then, though. Let's be honest.
I don't know if there will be a follow-up book, but I've got that documentary coming out as well, which is Are They Hostile? Which is it's the brainchild of myself and a chap called Mark Williams, and we just had this idea about 3 years ago when we were watching a film together, a film about the Slits, to do a documentary about all the bands that were about when we were younger, the second wave of punk in Croydon. So that's coming out soon. That's been great fun to make. We've got mixed up with some brilliant bands that are still mates of mine to this day. So that's coming out soon. I think with a compilation album as well. And when we have the premiere, John, you'll have to come to the opening night of the film, mate.
Mate, love to. I'm gonna have to kick you out now, but don't disappear too far because I'll speak to you in a few minutes. That hour has just flown by, mate, as it always do.
I enjoyed that, John. I enjoyed speaking to you, mate.
And hopefully I'll speak to you soon. Like, mate, I would say stay safe, but it doesn't mean anything with you. You may tomorrow, your dog may discover an unexploded bomb.
You never know. I might discover one, mate.
You take care. Speak soon. So that was a very interesting hour that I've just spent in the company of Griff. An amazing bloke. When the book comes out, we will obviously advertise it. Same with documentary. Like most geniuses, he doesn't do social media, so I can't even tell you go and have a look at his Twitter or his Instagram accounts because he ain't got them. But he'll probably draw you a picture on a bit of paper and send it to you. I will post a link to his Facebook page on my page as well, so do go and check him out and find out what he's up to. So what did we learn from that conversation then, other than the fact that, you know, genius comes in different guises and manifests itself in different ways? It seemed to me that he was aware of the fact that he worked to excess. Now, there's a lot of people who could do with working less because, let's be honest, on your deathbed, you are not going to say, I wish I spent more time at work. You will probably say, I wish I had done. And whatever that thing is you wish you had done, please, I urge you, go and start doing it now. You know, make time for yourself. If you're not happy with something, you know what, don't do it. Just don't do it. Understand that there's responsibilities, of course, because sometimes you've got to do things that you don't like. But, you know, that is life. Well-being is all about putting yourself first and trying to somehow reframe unhelpful thoughts. And that's not, I'm not a clinician, I'm not a practitioner, I'm not saying I'm going to cure you, I'm not saying anything of the sort. But what I am saying is, if you're in a good place now, a good way to maintain being a good place is to try and remove negative, toxic people from your life. Don't procrastinate. Get a meaningful hobby, like Griff said, you know, get a dog, take the dog for a walk. Dana brilliantly summed it up with companionship, having someone there to share your journey. But as Griff pointed out, when you're on that journey, you don't want people. No one can tell you A or B. All you can do is hope that your friends know that you're there, show them that you're there, show them that you care. And when they get better, and people generally do get better or stabilize in a way that means that they can maintain a useful and interesting, healthy life. One of the biggest things that people have to understand is that mental health problems happen to more people than you would ever know. Now, Griff's been able to use his well-being situation to be extremely creative, but other people just become extremely destructive. The biggest lesson in life is that don't ever think it can't happen to you. I'm not trying to be preachy and, you know, all kind of gung-ho American and, hey, it's not going to happen to you, man, because it can and it will and it does. And it's a very quick journey from being mentally strong and mentally healthy. If life's events take a hold of you, you can find yourself in a very bad place very, very quickly. One of the things that came across from talking to him was that, you know, you got to learn to know your limitations. Learning to say no is difficult, but you don't have to go no. You can say, well, I'm not available. Thanks for thinking of me. I can't. Because as he said with his friend who's going through a tough time, sometimes people who are in crisis or on a downward spiral, they're not able to tell you, I'm not feeling right, I'm not feeling well, or whatever. They are only able to say no, and it comes across as rude, and people generally don't try to deliberately be rude. I want to just say a quick thank you to people who came along and took time to leave comments tonight. Karen Crow, Pete Fermo, Robert Van Buren, John Newton, Steve Troop, so many of you. If I've missed out anyone, then you know, tough. Colin, mate, you're right. He's hilarious. Lindsay, hope you get better soon, mate. Thanks for coming along and listening, and thanks for all your support and everything you do, mate. Hopefully you'll be back on your feet soon enough. We are here every week, every Monday at 7 p.m. Please do keep tuning in and do listen to the mensradiostation.com website.
Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. talking with comedians about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible. It's great to be part of the mensradiostation.com family, so do check us out on the website, on social media. We'll be back next Monday. You take care. Stay safe, everybody.